Welcome back. Let's now turn our attention to the Memphis Tigers. If you asked many fans at the beginning of the season, they would have probably told you the Tigers would still be playing around this time of year.
They'd be wrong.
But alas, here we are. The Tigers are sitting at home.
Not only was it not the season fans expected, it was probably the worst season fans could have imagined for the Tigers this year. So,
wow.
Again, I mean, not making
worst season
under Penny.
I mean, I feel like we've seen worse.
Season.
I'm glad you said that. So to kind of summarize this season and talk about where we go next, we decided to go to a friend of the program, a guy who's been talking sports longer than I've been alive. A Memphis media legend, the one, the only, Mr. Greg Gaston. Welcome back to the program, my friend.
What a great introduction, guys. It's great to be back with you. I wish it was for talking NCAA tournament with the Tigers in it. Unfortunately, not the case.
Yeah, so, Greg, you've only been covering sports about 15 years then? You've been doing it longer than Rich has been alive, so it's not that long, right? He's like 12, so.
Yeah. That's it.
So, Greg, do you think that, as Ruben said, this may have been the worst season of Tigers basketball under the Penny era? I don't think so.
Oh, I think easily under the Penny era. I think you can go back decades. Decades, guys. You're talking about 19 losses. They haven't had that many losses in 56 years. And it's not always determined by losses. I go back, my first year covering the Tigers was 1995-96. It was the end of the Larry Finch era.
That's right when I was
And then they brought in a guy. Yeah, there you go. They brought in a guy named Tick Price, who was there for 2 seasons. Second season, he was ousted. He got into trouble. It wasn't really what he was doing coaching. He got into some extracurriculars, let's just say. But the point of the matter is their record wasn't as bad. They still landed a player on the second team, all Conference USA. They were in Conference USA back then. So there were still other things, determining factors when you look at the totality of a season. And I hate to say it, the Tigers fans, but I think they know if they got a shot at truth serum in their bodies, that this is certainly one of the worst we have seen in decades.
And that's saying a lot, considering you're in a transfer portal era where you're supposed to be able to negate some of that. You're supposed to be able to buy the players that keep you from dropping back. That's the whole point of it, right? Like your budget can keep you from dropping. And so that's, I think, one of the more concerning factors. Obviously, some news coming out, changing of the staff, even though Penny's staying.
Yeah.
Cleaning house pretty much.
Well, look, you were going to keep Penny. There was no question in my mind that Penny was going to be back. He's still owed nearly $6 million. They had a really good season last year up until the NCAA tournament where they lost in the first round, as you guys know. But I don't think that was a surprise. So what do? You have to appease the fans. You have to do something. You're not going to run it back after a disastrous season. So what happens? Who pays the price? Most of the time, it's the assistant coaches. And as you said, they've cleaned house. All 3 assistants are gone. The strength coach is gone as well. So we'll see what happens as far as them bringing in a general manager, which you guys I'm sure will bring up. I think that's going to happen. And we'll see who Penny ends up replacing those 3 guys with.
So is it safe to say this upcoming season is put up or shut up time for Penny? Because now it seems like when I'm looking at it, the only reason they kept him probably was because of that $6 million number. Or they may have let him go. So now if you're going to keep him, and obviously Penny is a legend in this area and everything he does and means to the city, it's tough to make a decision if you were going to part with him. But that doesn't mean his rope is long. I feel like now this next season, you got to make it happen.
I think you're right on, Richard. I do believe there were several reasons why Dr. Scott decided to keep Penny. One certainly was financially. He talked about that earlier today when he made an appearance on Gary Parrish's show. But he also talked about the record through 8 years. It's still a very good record. It's sort of gaudy if you look at wins versus losses. And they've played a very rugged non-conference schedule every season. So he gives them credit certainly for that. You don't give him credit for the NCAA tournament because he has 1 win in 8 years. But I think the combination of the money, the combination of the wins in totality, and then the importance, as you alluded to with Penny Hardaway, he gets out in the community. He's always there to sign an autograph, to take a picture. He is a great representation of what this city is about and what that school and that program is about. He's a representative with a capital R. He says no to nobody. He goes out there in the public. So there were a lot of things in favor of keeping Coach Hardaway for another year, but he also had to come up with a game plan. I think that game plan was something that certainly Dr. Scott heard and accepted. But I believe, as you do as well, next year, although there would still be money that you would have to pay out, if it's another season like this, I don't think there's any question that a move will be made. And I wouldn't be surprised if behind closed doors that was talked about.
So, to your point, I almost felt like it was time for Memphis basketball to evolve in how they're handling recruiting and portal and basically just management in general. You're wanting to play with the big dogs. You even got a little bit of big dog money, but now it's time to hire a GM like the big dogs do. A lot of those bigger programs are going this route because it just becomes it's more feasible to have a GM in place at this point, treat it like a pro level, and they're doing a lot of the scouting, they're doing a lot of the research, and then you're not relying on those coaches necessarily to do all of that recruiting and scouting in the portal.
Look, you hit it on the head. First of all, let me say this. Memphis has a great history of basketball, but are they a big dog anymore? I don't know if they're a big dog anymore. I don't think the expectations, though, change because within the conference, they are still the big dogs. And to have a season like that is something that you close your eyes and you hope it goes away. And next year they're back on top because that's what Dr. Scott expects. He expects them to be in the NCAA tournament every single year. There's no reason why they shouldn't dominate the conference. They have the most money out of any basketball program in this conference. And Dr. Scott also said that they should have the most money to be able to use in the portal for these players in all of the group of six. So with that said, yeah, Memphis should be able to thrive off of that. But to challenge the big dogs, that's a whole nother question. You got to get lucky with the players you bring in. You have to do well in non-conference. And they've done that in the past. Not this year, but they've done it in the past. So your point about bringing somebody in is what I've said all along. Penny Hardaway has a lot of things that he's doing. I just mentioned how he gets out in the community. He's doing a lot of things. He's obviously concerned about his team, the X's and O's, the strategy. He's taken more of it upon his own shoulders. He talked about that earlier in the year when he took away a little power from the assistant coaches and put more on himself. Well, there's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so many days in a week. You absolutely need a guy, in my opinion, who knows personnel, who knows about players who will be in the portal, who has studied these players, knows the high school ranks, knows the international players, and that strictly is their job. They're not worried about X's and O's. They're not a tactician. They're not worried about running practices. That one person, their sole job is personnel and to decipher who makes sense within the budget that they have. Yes, the big dogs have those GMs. Some of the smaller dogs have them, but not too many of them. Memphis is smack in the middle. We know they're not a small dog, but they're not really a big dog anymore now. Can they become a big dog again? Certainly. But I think having this response from Penny Hardaway about being open to a general manager to look at the personnel for him while he still makes the ultimate decision, I think is the absolute way they need it to go. And if he was reluctant, I would bet that they would have made a coaching change.
So when we look at these GMs, a lot of times with college sports, it's an alumni of the program. Do you think maybe the way to go for a GM is to be somebody who was a former Tigers basketball player?
Not at all. Yeah. Outside the family. Get eyes that see it from somewhere different as opposed to within the family. The family, sometimes that's an issue. That's an issue. He has a lot of people, personnel on his staff that are from the family. I think you need to look outside, find somebody that has a different set of eyes, that sees it differently, and then they come in and they learn about Memphis. They learn about what's important and how important this program is to the community. But they're looking at it through, I can't say it any better than a different set of eyes. That's the way I would go. Is it the way they're going to go? Who knows? But I think that's the way they should go.
Well, that GM spot has, while it does take pressure off of the coaches, it's its own monster because you have to be able to evaluate talent. You have to have connections within the college basketball world and the high school basketball world. And then you have to be able to manage money, right? Because that person is ultimately deciding who gets what and how much they can spend out of that pot. I wouldn't shock me to see somebody from like an SEC or a Big 12 school, one of those affiliates become the GM of an American Conference school like Memphis. Somebody who's dabbled in that higher level of player development, somebody who's had to deal with the money a little bit different, who can come down and show Memphis how to, orchestrate that.
It could come from anywhere. It could even come from somebody who's been at the professional ranks with an NBA team. I'm not sure where they'll get that person from. I think you make a great point about being at a bigger program, dealing with more money, but then you have to come down because now you're going to get less money to deal with. I just think it is absolutely pertinent to hire the right person. They become instantly the second most important person within that basketball program. Obviously, the coach is still the most important. Penny's still making the ultimate decisions. Penny's doing the scheduling, X's and O's, strategizing for games. But he has to have the players. And it's always been him making those decisions by himself. It was a lot easier, guys, when Penny first got the job to be able to sell players on who he is. He's still that guy. But now that we have money and the money's flowing, it doesn't matter if they remember you or their parents remember you from your NBA days. All that matters now, 99% of the time, is how much you can pay these players. So I think it's absolutely pivotal that they have a guy that knows and understands. You made the point about where they need to be looking, both with players within the college ranks at all divisions. At all divisions. There's nothing that says you have to get a guy from D1. You can go down there and get a great shooter from D2. You can find players internationally. Look at some of the rosters around the country. Look at Illinois. They depend on international players. Memphis, sure, they dabbled a little bit in that, but to go out and get the big European big men, can they get those players? I don't know, but I would like to see them at least look at those type of players. Junior colleges, the high school ranks, which Penny's getting back into. We know that Cello Jackson is committed to Memphis. We don't know yet about Fred Smith, but I know there's other offers out there for the next few years from Penny. So I think he's dabbling back into the high school ranks. But that general manager is a person that needs to know where every basketball player is. Look under every single rock to find the right player and do it, like you said, guys, within the budget that they have, which is the highest amount of money in the American Conference. And as Dr. Scott said, he hopes it's the highest in P6.
Like you said, this is a results-based
G6.
sport.
Yeah.
We got you.
This is a results-based business, and obviously we hope to see the Tigers once again in the postseason. As we get ready to wrap up with you, Greg, we got to ask, it's March Madness time. Of course, the Tigers aren't playing, but who you got? Who's your Final Four? Who do you got cutting down the nets, winning it all?
So I'm doing this by memory. I have Duke, even though I'm a little concerned with their injuries. I have Florida. I think as long as those bigs are not shut down in any of the games, they're dominant. And then you throw in Boogie Flan and Lee. I think they have a chance to repeat. I have Michigan going in, so that's 3 number ones, but I don't think we get the repeat of last year, the rarity of the 4 number ones. I have a surprise. I have Iowa State getting in. But I think when it's all said and done, Michigan is cutting down the nets. They were a dominant team early in the year. I know they lost to Purdue in the Big Ten championship, and I like Purdue a lot, but I think Michigan wins the national championship. Dusty May has done an unbelievable job.
Wow.
I wouldn't have gone with Michigan, but we'll see. I'm a little disappointed in where Arkansas is in their bracket because I really like the way Arkansas is playing right now, and I think they have a chance to make some
I love
noise.
Arkansas. I love Arkansas. They're in the same region with Arizona. Arizona right now is playing better than anybody. The reason why I don't pick Arizona, guys, and this is just a personal thing, Arizona screws me every year in my office pool.
Yes.
Every year. I am not taking them. They have not gone to the Sweet 16. They have not gone past the Sweet 16 in a while. I know they have national championships and a great pedigree. But I'm not taking them. They're just. It wouldn't surprise me now that I didn't take them. That they go win the whole thing. But I'm gonna go with Michigan to cut it down.
Okay, Greg, we giving your takes, so we'll give our takes a little bit later in the show. But Greg, we gotta let you go. It's always a pleasure to talk sports with you with all your knowledge and everything. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.
Take it easy, Greg.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break and then we're back after this.